Hi, everyone. The last 18 months have been very difficult on all of us, our families, our businesses, and the country itself. With vaccination rates rising and governments talking about living with COVID-19, the light is very faintly visible at the end of this whole traumatic experience for the world. Today, we have a very interesting topic that is very close to my heart, which is digitizing for business and growth. And with me are three very prominent personalities who really don't need much introduction. And what I love about the three of them is that they bring such a wide array of experience in the various waves of digitization that has engulfed the world through their varied experiences. Joining me first is Ramesh Shanmuganathan, the Executive Vice President and CIO of John Keells Holdings. Very, very famous personality in Sri Lanka. I don't think there is anyone who doesn't really know him in this field. Joining Ramesh with us today is also Chinthi Weerasinghe, who is the CEO of Mitra Digital, also a very experienced personality in this field. And obviously, Thusera Kawdawatta, who is the CEO of Axiata Digital Labs, very famous personality. I think I have never seen such an semblance of experience on a particular topic. We've been doing this series of webinars for a while. I'm truly, truly delighted to tap your brains. And we're trying to empower both SMEs and large enterprises, on the way forward, because I don't think anybody has a playbook and we're trying to really define what it is. So to get things underway, let me start off with Ramesh. Ramesh, studies have shown that between 70 to 80% of digital innovation initiatives, transformation initiatives, have failed to really, achieve the outcome set out at the start. And this seems to be the norm for every year going forward. Keep on really not achieving these objectives. Why do you think that is? And what kind of what are the key ingredients of a successful digital transformation initiative?
If I kind of reflect on my kind of 20 years of journey, today a lot of people kind of use the word digital very loosely, right? So I think that there lies a bigger problem, especially at a C-level. I see more and more C-level executives don't really understand the word terminology digital and distinguish it separate from technology. When you talk of a digital transformation, I feel it's a bigger, broader subject than a technology transformation. And people need to probably understand that fact first. So in the absence of it, I see there are a lot of fuzzy definitions floating around about digital. People think digital is about marketing. Digital is about the fancy things of having a mobile app, a website, a commerce site. So there are various nuances of definition which floats around, even in boardrooms, unfortunately, right? So when you have a traditional executive leadership who doesn't understand the nuances of digital, then what happens is that the entire economical context of digital is misplaced, right? So people really don't look at digital as a lever which kind of pivot their growth, but they look at it as a bolt-on things which probably can do something, right? And that something is also not known. So the bigger challenge I see is one thing is the leadership commitment for the digital transformation, and going along with that is the organization's cultural change, right? Why I say that is today digital transformation is not a technology transformation which can be abdicated to a set of geeks, right? Neither can you kind of say that without the organization's buy-in, a transformation of this magnitude is never going to be successful. A lot of people misplace their thing saying, hey, I can hire a PhD from MIT and put a few geeks together and I have this fantastic digital unit which is going to kind of transform this organization, which is fallacy, right? I think people need to come to terms with that as well. So the other aspect that I see is the duality of digital, right? So today we have startups which are greenfield and like organizations like us, like John Keells, we are brownfield, right? So we have to necessarily look at the duality of digital where we got to transform the core whilst we look at the kind of fancy stuff which really can be disruptive, right? Without transforming the core, you can't do this fancy stuff and bolt them on, right? And that is where I feel most organizations, especially in the brownfield arena, are failing, because they're not understood that it's a duality part which is significant, because you already have scale, you have presence in the market, right? You don't have to, like a startup, build from scratch. But then your entire exponential potential is in terms of leverage the duality, right? So I think, and then also looking at when you kind of move on to a digital phase, you have to necessarily endorse that you have to move from a linear value chain into value ecosystem. So that's about collaboration, your co-creation and co-innovation, right? So you don't have to do A to Z yourself, right? And a lot of our executives are fighting shy of that, because they are control freaks who want to do A to Z, right? Not really focusing in terms of the value ecosystem where I'm good at manufacturing, let me focus on that. I don't have to focus on supply chain. I could collaborate on supply chain, right? So I think that platform thinking is also lacking. So if in summary, I think all of these aspects have to be looked at if you are to be successful, and probably are contributing factors to the failure that you probably put it at a high percentage, like 70.
Excellent introduction to the topic and why these initiatives don't work. Chinthi and Thusera, you want to add something to?
I like to just probably, I think those are really good points. If I could just simplify that a little bit, a lot of digital transformation fails because they don't recognize that it's not just about transforming your experience to your customers. It's very much about transforming oneself, your organization. And a lot of the times, if you actually think of digital transformation as an opportunity to overhaul, I use that word deliberately, really overhaul your process and your talent, overhaul your operations. And obviously through that, overhaul your relationship with your customers. I think you are sort of bound to think of this in the right way. A lot of these organizations, and it's very right to say, it's just not about having a fancy app, right? It's not about just that, that's, if I pardon this, but it's like lipstick on a pig, right? You can't do that. You really have to overhaul everything, and you have to behave like that too. Organizations, are going on agile journeys because that's you're thinking completely different to be able to drive success. So I couldn't agree more with what Ramesh had to say.
Yeah, Imran, add to that. Thanks, Ramesh. Nice explanation. I think if you need to look at this digital transformation in three buckets, which is people, technology, and process. Most of the places that, as Chinthi said, maybe people will be looking at technology, whereas you might be forgetting the people and the process. And when you're talking about this, the processes, we are not talking about actually bringing a cumbersome processes, like maybe adjusting processes, like maybe agile to maybe a safe to, and all of these kind of smaller value-adding processes into your organization to disrupt that. As Ramesh said, where are you going from A to Z? Rather, are we really taking a cut short approach to going into the C, right? It's a journey, and it's to look at in multiple pillars like the people, process, and technology, and look at in a contextual manner, right? It's has to have a context also where you are really doing your digital transformation, because somebody is doing a digital transformation might not apply to you, right? Maybe somebody talk about maybe AI might not work for you in a larger context, because without having the data right, you might not even start the AI journey. Yeah, so we need to look at in that context. As you said, yes, it's a big process, and all of these three pillars have to come together to make that entire journey successful.
Chinthi, I have a question for you. I've seen this quote attributed to you as well. In tech in the past, you were supposed to serve enterprises, right? But today, increasingly, it's serving the individual, and if you really want acceptance from society, whether the individual is a customer or an employee, right? It must be meaningful to them. How do we create this? How do we make tech and the whole concept of digital serve the individual?
It's all about customer experience, right? So I like to simplify things just so that our listeners can understand also. Customer experience is really how our customers perceive their interactions with your company, right? So there are really two elements at play here: how it's perceived and how that interaction actually is. If you break it down even further, I think it relies on three things. One is, how successful was that interaction? Did I get what I wanted to get done? Because if you don't do that, then guess what? Your experience just immediately falls apart. Second is, how much of effort was it for me to actually get that interaction done? Give me apologies, sorry about that. And third thing is, how did I feel after that interaction, right? I can give you an example of that high effort, right? I leave the bank nameless, but this bank I am with right now I've been using their web services, and I know they want me to move to their mobile app. However, what they have forgotten to do is, I have set up all my transfers, all my transfer accounts, my monthly transactions already in my web platform. But when I open my mobile, I don't have a seamless experience. I have to now go back and set up each and every one of those. So what does that do? That requires more effort from me to move to a particular platform. And there itself, I'm sure the platform works well. I'm sure an interaction will go down really well and be very successful. However, my emotion and the effort that I had to put in to move to that platform just completely falls apart. And there are drives. So you can have a brand spanking new application. It can be the snazziest thing on earth, but if you can't do those three things, make sure that the transactions are successful. Make sure that the effort I put in doesn't, is not beyond what I absolutely need to, and the emotions, the perception I take away from that is good. You have great customer experience. Now, successful customer experience, take it a step further. So one is truly building that omni-channel and self-service applications that are intuitive, don't take that much of effort from me, and leave me with a great experience. Then the next thing is, how do you engage a customer right throughout their journey with you? From awareness to engagement to evaluation of them to purchase to post-purchase service to advocacy, right? So if you think of that journey, how am I digitally engaging this? And is that experience for me right throughout this process valuable, successful, and a great experience? Then obviously the third element, and a lot of customers a lot of companies miss this, is the use of the data, right? That you collect. Again, I apologize to the financial industry, I guess, but when you have a customer and you have a banking customer, you can get a call from their credit card department that knows nothing about you. So where is the KYC in that? Where is my experience of really knowing who I am? You have to know who I am to be able to drive a very successful customer experience, right? So using that data, using that with AI capabilities to really narrow down what my likes and dislikes are, is going to be really, really important and relevant in the future. Then obviously, you do that through, strong CRM systems, etc., that give you not just that, but through AI, maybe offer next best actions and things like that. And last but not least, all of this technology will be nothing unless you actually train your staff that's actually serving your customer and are sort of front ending. So I think all of that put together will drive a phenomenal experience for your customers, and that's going to be the number one reason that large brands in the past few years have lost customers, because they have not been able to tackle this situation well.
Interesting. Ramesh is actually a director of a bank. I'm wondering whether Ramesh has any.
No, Ramesh, not the one you're on the photo.
because I think the main thing, I think what we probably miss out when you move from physical to digital is that you treat every customer as another number, right? In digital, you can't do that, right? So in digital, you got to really identify even I as a person might have multiple personas. So from a digital context, I have to profile each persona, not just the person, right? Because each person has need. I being a dad, I being an employee, I being a maybe a student, my needs are different. So the digital is all about understanding that each human being will have multiple personas and their needs and wants are different. And you got to then give them that experience, right? So I think that is very true. So even in the bank, I think we had the discussion, even at Keells Super, we had the discussion. How do you ensure that you give them consistency across channels, right? And the choice of the channel is theirs. So that persona, the journey mapping, the entire user experience is obviously has to be then data driven, and it's a journey. You can't flip a switch and do this, right? So this is where I said digital transformation is not about getting up one morning and saying, "Hey, I'm digital today," right? So it's about a journey, and that journey is not easy, right? And that journey comes with a lot of pain for you to really reap that gain.
Absolutely. Thusera, you do a lot of work with different brands as well. What are your experience, in terms of tech serving the individual as much as the enterprise?
Yeah, I think, as you said, yes, we as Axiata Group, we serve over 200 million clients, right? And this customer experience is one of the top-notch priority for us. And there, as I think both touched that point, we need to look at the personas of what people really are looking for. And again, each individuals have the different competency levels in digital savviness, right? And then how we make that seamless, intuitive, and more like the layman should be able to kind of use this, right? As simply as like when I have a wallet, how I use a wallet is you can't exactly replicate that in digital, but you have to give the similar experience to the user also, right? It can't be completely different that they can't really understand that. So then comes the AI part of it. So then for that we need a lot of data. It's like you are teaching a 6-year-old to run a business. Yeah. So, but it takes time. So it won't happen in a day. So it will take maybe 1 year, maybe 10 years. So we need to understand, it depends on how much of now data you accumulate to make some of those decisions. So that's where the customer experience is very relative, right? So very, very relative to region, to gender, to geographies, to age demographies. All of these really matters. That's where you understand who the customer is. For that, we use a customer 360 view. It's not only one-sided. It's actually multi-channels, multiple angles. This is a 360-degree angle from our side, from customer side, from the peer side, and the social side, global economics. All of these things have to come together to kind of serve that the client. And then we are forgetting a fact that there's a technology also play a biggest role in this particular place, right? It's not just mimicking a user to a particular experience. It's actually now we need to leverage the technology also for that, right? And then technology also should be able to cater to that requirement as well. So then all of these things together, mapping the technology capability actually creates a nice user experience. I think in one of the TM Forum awards, we have won alongside with Dialogue on this customer experience, which is one of the greatest award we have won. And that's kind of a testament that this over 200 million client base, we learn something and we really replicate that to deliver some of the experience to our clients.
In executing a successful digital transformation initiative, one of the most important pillars is getting the right people together, right? The talent equation of this whole thing. And I've seen in your career, you have assembled great talents in different organizations that you work for, and you actually scale teams very, very fast as well. Even at Axiata, I've seen how fast your teams have grown. Maybe not necessarily for a large enterprise, that has those resources, but even for us SME, how do you go about assembling this, great team of individuals who can then, cohesively create this great transformation process?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most challenging area for any enterprise, any single enterprise. I think it's true for Ramesh, it's true for Chinthi, it's true for me, it's true for any enterprise, right? And there are 5 things that you need to do in terms of getting the right person, regardless of the size of the organization. There are 5 things in my view we need to think about. First thing is actually what really inspires this person. So when you're hiring a person, so you need to look at what inspires. It's no doubt that in this particular the space, only the intellectual challenge inspires the person. In that case, we need to make sure if you're hiring a top person, we need to challenge with the intellectual challenge. You have to give that intellectual challenge, right? Second, we need to make sure that the right person get involved in hiring. So A players hires A players, and B players, by the way, hires C players, right? We need to be cognizant about that fact. And we need to make sure right persons involved in hiring the right person into the organization, right? Third thing is actually, if you look at every person has his weaknesses, strengths and the weaknesses. So you need to build a strength-based organization where you focus only the strengths and don't even talk about your weakness. My best example is Muthaiya Murildaran, right? Best bowler in the world. He only can do bowling extremely well. Nobody talks about he's a he's a lousy batsman, right? Nobody cares even, but he's a strength. It's a strength to the team. Right, and the fourth is again, are we planning to invest in this person? So Chinthi touch upon that. So we need to make sure that we are aligning our customer requirements and the skills are actually with this person. So finally, if you don't have the environment and the culture right for people to perform, that's again a challenge to retain a person. It's not about actually just hiring a person. It's about retaining a person. As you said, yes, I think we have grown from less than 200 to 1,000 in 2 years, right? So that's a massive growth. Serious exponential growth. Now with that, you typically create subcultures because like 900 people coming from outside creating organizations in a short time. So we need to make sure that culture right, the systems are right, and the people also understand the fact that we are in an age that we have to inculcate this dynamic nature of skills coming in, right? So those are some of the ingredients. Actually, it worked for me. Right, and it might work for everybody, but again, the fact is the strength-based organization is true for everybody. A players hires A players, and we need to really make sure that the right person involved in getting the person or to the organization, right? And again, aligning the person, what you really want from the person, which is that aligning his skills and challenging him intellectually that he can perform much better. So when you have those, that word of mouth, that kind of peers actually pull people in, right? And they love to work with the best of the best people around them. So that actually what really works for us, Imran.
I agree with you. One of the bigger tech companies told me once that they were actually considering, getting rid of the entire recruitment team because they were full of general HR specialists who did not really understand about hiring, A-type people. And I think that echoes what you were saying. Ramesh, you're seen as a bit of a, mentor to many of the next generation talent in the industry. And any thoughts on assembling a great team?
I think it's about sometimes you may not really have the ideal candidate in any situation, right? So it's important in today's context. I feel your talent could come from anywhere in the world. And I truly believe and endorse crowdsourcing as a strategy for John Keells, even for John Keells IT, because it is ultimately, I think we need to understand that today intellect is a factor of your knowledge and what you invest in terms of keeping it up to date, right? And today we can hire the best of the people, but ultimately, like what Thusera said, if you don't give them a challenging environment, you're not going to be able to retain them, nurture them, right? So it's important for us to understand what is that we need in terms of our talent pool, and whether the talent pool is a permanent talent pool or is a transient talent pool, which you would need to get some things done. And that's the view which is important. Like I said, in terms of digital transformation, one thing that we focus on, something called a digital quotient, right? Not only for the technical talent pool, for every employee at John Keells, that what is the digital quotient we would need for this business, right? What is the digital skill that they need to be kind of incubated or trained upon? And what is the digital kind of skill set that the organization needs to incubate, right? And what do we need to do? And that is where we need to infuse the talent to ensure if this is a new tech skill set that we are trying to infuse, then that investment has to then come from the company to kind of incubate that, right? So I think that's the blended strategy we need to adopt, because as I said, we are not trying to scale from 200,000 like Axiata Digital Labs, but our challenges are different. Given the multitude of industries, we are trying to see how do you ensure tech becomes cost effective for a company who is making a 2% net profit to a 20% net profit, right? So we got to have that spread and be able to balance the spread as well.
Chinthi, anything to add?
Both Ramesh and Thusera actually covered a lot of it. I guess the only aspect I'd like to add is I think we hire really for attitude and aptitude versus skills. And I completely agree with Ramesh. I think we've started this strategy called Right Skills Anywhere. And we're very happy that we've actually been able to diversify our teams from locations. This opportunity, pandemic, as painful as it is, and it was in particular for the past maybe the last year. It actually is an opportunity for us, and we've actually been able to diversify. So now we hire people in Jaffna, we hire people from in Gaul and Mathura who would have not typically, unless they had to move to where we are, would not have had the opportunity. So I think the looking for the right strengths from anywhere, it has become an opportunity at this moment. And I completely agree with Thusera on sort of really inspiring that person to join the organization, looking at the core values and sort of always coming back to the core values and the culture, right? As you grow, as you build larger and larger teams, that becomes your number one challenge. And I think it's always good to sort of engage the teams, make sure you refresh them, and make sure that you keep that culture alive and reminded in everybody's hearts.
Fascinating insights. Actually, just to add something, in one of the other webinars that we're doing in this series, this was on marketing, right? Some of the digital marketers, some of Sri Lanka's leading digital marketers were informing us that, look, they are now recruiting from Eastern Europe because they can't find the kind of talent they need. And the talent from Eastern Europe is actually quite cost effective as well. And also, you can tap in the Sri Lankan diaspora who might have a little bit of time, from wherever they're working in the world as well. So I think this has been an excellent time to kind of, change the whole talent equation. And I'm really, really happy to see you guys leading it, because once you lead, then the small SMEs will also follow, because I think they're looking for the bigger companies to lead. Coming to a general question that I have for all of you, and anyone can jump into this, something that is very close to my heart as well. One of the challenges of the tech industry globally has been a lack of diversity, right? If you look at the general consumer population, 51% of the general consumer population in Sri Lanka are women. However, when it comes to tech, at least only about 25% of leadership positions in the industry are women. And obviously there are a whole lot of other issues in terms of disability and so on that needs to be addressed. Tech must work for them as well. I can give you a couple of examples of when I was running start21. A couple of things we did was we looked at the panels that we were having on webinars and at that time physical events to make sure we had some diversity in them. We had a women's only hackathon, which was simply because we recognized that voices were getting drowned in teams that were dominated by many in terms of the university structures. And some of the people that came up in those are now startup founders of companies that are quite big in Sri Lanka as well. Any ideas around how do we create much more diversity among the tech industry, particularly because talent is at a premium, particularly during COVID. Anyone, please?
So just to add it up, maybe kind of take a step at that. I think we've looked at, especially with the gender equality in terms of promoting that across. So we've looked at and kind of assessment across for John case, from a tech point of view, it's at about 40%. I think a lot of the time what we see is most, even when they get married and have a child, they opt out in most cases because of other pressures. But I think today I feel in the last 18 months, especially with this work from home, the shift towards flexi time, I feel that will probably really work well for working mothers and professionals who want to kind of continue their career beyond marriage and the childbirth. I think that's been the two breaking points I've seen where females tend to quit or call it a day with their career and looking at their pressures from running a family as well. So I think that's where I feel with the tech enablement getting up to speed, I feel it will definitely give them an equal opportunity to kind of, continue their career as well.
Yeah, I'd like to add, obviously, yeah, this is I'm extremely passionate about this, and not just because I'm a female, but this has been a passion for me, and also why I've founded one of the founding members of Diversity Collective, which I believe we even came and spoke at one of the John Keells events, where I think you guys have done a great job in getting everybody to sort of at least listen to the importance of diversity. But I'm going to sort of, all of us would probably believe that, pandemic was probably a neutralizing effect because we have work from home and hybrid. But I think what it will highlight is that not just for mothers, but for also fathers, the concept of a double shift has happened, right? In dealing with things, your wife, I'm sure if they don't work, they would probably, now because you're at home, they're going to give you a longer list of a honey-do list. And you're probably bound to participate in the work that she would do during the day. So I feel positive because not only about working from home, but this is going to probably open everybody's eyes is how difficult it is for a female to actually handle that double shift. Be a mom and have a great career. And really, I think through the COVID and pandemic policies that come out from it, in terms of, look, we are probably now looking at mental well-being as a big proponent in making sure our teams are engaged well. We're looking at work-life balance in a very, very new way. We're forcing it on our team members, right? So in a sense, I have great hope because I think this is a bit of an equalizer, a bit of an eye-opener for everybody, because now it's not just the females having to do the double shift, and the dads at home are also looking at. So, but I hope, we take from that, we learn from this situation, actually build it into policies where we actually realize that it's not about being equal, it's really about that equity. How does somebody handle that double shift, right? What do you have to do? What kind of flexibility do you have to have in your policies in order for somebody to be able to handle a great career while being a great mom and having a great family? And it goes for both dads as well as moms.
Yeah, so from my side, I think first we need to accept that the females have an equal or maybe better intellectual competencies compared to men, right? The problem here is the opportunity and again the constraints that they have. So then again, if you look at the statistics, so we at ADL, we have about a little over 30% of female. Now we see the new trends, actually new hires, it's actually above 50%, which meaning that strength is becoming more and more. Maybe given the fact that right now the environment is such that there are no other constraints. Some of the constraints have been taken away. Some constraints have been imposed, some constraints are taken away, right? And the second is, again, do we have the right enablers and the policies and even the acceptance sometimes, again, maybe, so first, as I told you, like we need to accept that they have the equal or better IQ, right? So it is, history says that, right? First, even a computer programmer is a female. And then from there onwards, we need to find why we need that, because it's the female brings the super diversity into the teams, right? And different viewpoints and different challenges, or maybe actually they're challenging sometimes the status quo. So I think we need to accept and more like enhance that also. Then we enable, actually with that, we enable some of these females, even some females who wants to go on higher studies, actually we allow them to even part-time work for ADA. So we offer part-time jobs while they study, then actually they work for us. Secondly, again, when they migrate, even with the other problem is husband get a migration opportunity, but now wife loses. Now we offer remote working for those now females, right? So that's an opportunity. The third one is, again, what type of, again, jobs do we need to create separate jobs? It might be no, I think so. They don't differentiate. Don't even think about they are different or they are special. It's equal, right? So we need to create an equal playground for anybody and everybody to play. Yeah? So when you create that environment and the culture, So I don't see any problem. I think the females have better acceptance and better way of delivering things than what the men's can do, right? I think we all know, but sometimes maybe we fail to accept that. So I think when we start from there, actually we start accepting that and then create environment and opportunities and enablers for female to contribute, it's become serious gain to any organization. So in my view, I have seen that. So I'm really proud that actually some of the females are actually delivering much better, much strong, much consistency, and that's actually it's a value to any organization. Again, how you encourage that, create that environment, culture, and also systems and policies to facilitate that.
Excellent. I think the COVID has been a great leveler, and I think hopefully we will recognize the kind of learnings that we have had throughout this period to kind of build a bit more equal tech industry, which serves the end consumer as well. I want to just take this conversation to another direction. I'll start with you, Thusera. Now we've set ourselves up for this whole digitizing for growth, and we see many organizations, they've got this momentum, and they're moving forward. And there is this danger of not getting the right mix between growth and stability. And you can easily get sidetracked in terms of your, moving away quickly from your core values, beliefs, and the kind of, principles that you have been following up to this point. But I've noticed that a company that has grown so fast as Axiata Digital Labs has found this way of, sticking to some extent to the core arbitrage that you call this, the core set of values that the company has. How can other organizations learn from your success?
Okay. So I think, again, sometimes this my recipe might not work for everybody, and I'm not advising, but rather I'm maybe spelling my experience, right? For me, culture is not the arbitrage, right? And as you said, yes, the scale can be stale also, right? And then what is the arbitrage is the soul of the organization. What is the soul of the organization? It's actually why we are here, why we are existent, what we do, and why we do things, right? And so the culture is more like a subset of that entire soul. So if you are sticking to that, then we need to create an environment, or more like again, everything what you do have to align to that, right? Because most of the companies, when they grow, yes, actually you lose the culture, you lose the soul, right? And sometimes you feel like what we have done earlier now might not work. In that case, you completely change some of the things. It's working very well, right? So that creates a lot of instability. For one thing is the people, the process, and also again, adding a lot of burden to your systems also. While you maintaining that, how you keep the soul is by creating a culture that everybody align with that and connected to the soul, right? So which is, again, we understand why we are doing things for our clients and who our clients are and who our people are. So why those people are also existence in the organization. It's not for they come to maybe they take a paycheck and go home, right? They want to learn, they want to contribute, they want to be recognized, and they want to grow their careers. So all of these have to provide in an organization. The secondly, now if you are not connected to the client, what you do is not going to be relevant. Then what you do is then you start losing clients, right? When you start losing clients, yes, you have a nice growth trajectory and you are enjoying that, but actually you start losing the best set of clients. Now we have to run an engine to find new set of clients, which is a serious burden to any organization. At the same time, so when you have the client and you can't serve, meaning you find new client and you're going to lose that client also, right? So your engine become very stressful. And so as I told you, the scale can be stale. How you can do that is you can replicate that the startup culture, which is startups, you have the soul nicely connected to everybody. The large organization need to think how we can get back that soul, right? And again, it's easy. Maybe so Ramesh have a good example of that because being there for so long is about actually keep reminding us that why we exist, and what our client wants and what capabilities we have to serve our clients and keep innovating around that. right? Because clients are also not looking at the same thing that we have been doing for last 5 years. They are looking at something completely new that they can go to their clients, right? So in that case, it's the soul, the intent really matters. The intent, you to really understand what is that intent, how we do what we do. And this thirdly, again, we need to make sure that you take care of your people, right? And it's nothing but actually having a foosball table or a table tennis or a pool table in your organization. Those things won't go a long way, right? So maybe initially, yes, you love it, good, great, fine. So what next, right? So that doesn't work anymore. It's about actually how nicely you're challenging your people to grow their potential, right? And then create an environment for them to perform. Even so, you have the best person, and if you don't have an environment for them to perform and grow, yeah, so obviously they won't stick with you. There are enough other opportunities and places to go. Lastly, so your business need to think about optimizations. In that case, your engine have to be super solid. The systems have to come in place. The processes have to be there for everybody to work transparently, right? So transparency really matters, right? Then when you have that, so your engine runs smoothly, right? And people will work for a particular purpose and intent, and then your clients are happy. So doesn't have a lot of churn in the clients. So when you have all these ingredients rightly set up, I think the scale won't be stale.
Actually, go to Ramesh before I come to Chinthi. I have a question for Chinthi as well. But Ramesh, alluding on to something that Thusera said about the startup culture. Now, John Keells X, which you are very much part of, is a very good example of an established organization. Investing in, and I think you take about 6 to 8% of companies, but also co-inventing with startups, right? And I think it's been a very good, successful model for other larger corporates to follow. What are your key learnings from this and that others can adopt?
So Imran, I think when we started this John Keells X in 2015, our aspiration was purely in terms of getting the current leadership as well as the employees exposed to the opportunity and the potential of the open innovation, right? So the initial thing when we had, it was kind of more like a prize money, the JKX 1.0. So Gendo, who we kind of funded, filed the first patent in US. And we are very happy to be part of it, right? Because it is, for us, it was not the quantum of money, it was that we were also betting on youngsters and wanted the organization to understand that ideas is what we need to invest, right? Sometimes it's not about the person, it's the idea and the conviction, right? So today, I think if you look at whatever has happened over the last decade, it's about ideas coming to fruition, right? So people believing in people, not in terms of fixed assets or the balance sheet, right? So the JKX2, then we kind of pivoted in terms of it becoming a kind of an accelerator, where we felt we would encourage ideas and help them accelerate from zero to whatever in 9 months, right? And we took a 6% stake for a small sum of like 2 million kind of a thing, right? And then JKX3, we went further and we opened it out to our employees as well. And they're one of the employees who got picked. We actually gave him paid leave for 6 months, and now he's running on his own, Helios P2P, right? A peer-to-peer lending scheme. So today we have, out of the 9 or 50 odd startups we have touched in the last 5 years, 9 we have invested, and close to about 5 are doing pretty well. Direct Pay, Urban.lk, Helios, Blue Lotus, Gendo was one, and Sensacro. Right, and we have gone on to round 2 investments on 2 of those. So JKX 4.0 is going to get announced pretty soon, and we are taking a very significant pivotal shift. We are also planning to launch our own CVC, right? So we are also planning to invest in late stage startups as well, and want it to be well aligned to the businesses. So we wanted businesses to come up with use cases this time around, and we are going to kind of frame it around a hackathon where we would have 2 streams, accelerator plus venture fund, where we might even go up to 20% stake with a big ticket investment, as provided there is alignment, because we feel that is what will kind of fuel the kind of innovation DNA that we are looking for. And we are necessarily not wanting it to come from the confinements of John Keells.
Chinthi, question for you. Again, coming back to something you said at the beginning of this whole webinar, where you spoke about the process of going through a digital transformation. It's also looking at the core business itself. Examining exactly what you do, and something that Mitra Digital is quite vociferous in terms of how they engage with their clients. It's about creating simplicity through innovation and for them to look at their businesses as well. How should a business go about this whole re-examining their business model while at the same time doing the whole transformation?
I use words like overhaul, and we all know digital transformation is a big disruptor, right? So and you go back to the very basics of it, right? Think of Uber, how it disrupted the taxi services, etc. And the question any business should be asking is, why wouldn't we take another look at our business models and whether they need to be changing? Let's go back to our bank, right? The most traditional known entity, for all of us and the people on this call. It is a very traditional institute where you can deposit money, give out loans, and provide services like wealth management. But there is an $18 billion market and growing at about 46 to 47% a year of neobanks, which is 100% digital banks that are not talking about savings accounts and current accounts and what kind of interest loans. We work with a client in Australia, who shall remain nameless. That slogan is "Your money automated." Right? There's no concept of accounts. There's no concept of interest and loans. They want to be part and parcel of your life, and they want to almost disappear to the background. I work with CIOs of very, very large banks who basically said, Chinthi, the bank needs to not be front and center. It needs to be there to support you. That's our vision. And really, you think about these organizations as helping you save, helping you pay, helping you earn something, helping you plan your life and actually have fun, right? The best of these banks actually say, let me plan my vacation. They help you plan your budget. So they are very much an integral part of your life and therefore disrupting the traditional banks. So I think the question is, why not? Right? Not about whether they should or not, but why not? And how quickly can you do it before you get completely disrupted? Obviously, there's things like regulation that would prevent certain things, but I think it's just a matter of time until you reach that tipping point and things completely change.
Okay. And one thing I have noticed in the entire conversation is how much of transformation has happened during the times of COVID. And one thing that I feel businesses in Sri Lanka, around the world, really have not addressed enough, and this is a general question for all of you. The more we digitize our life, the issue of cybersecurity becomes more and more important, right? And I think we have not, in this rush to get systems and processes underway, I think this is one area that we really have looked at enough. Advice from any of all of you, to our SMEs and big businesses about being smart about cybersecurity and doing it very, very quickly, because I think it's a critical issue now.
I think it's a massive issue. I mean, it's estimated that cybercrime will reach about $10 trillion across the globe by 2025, as in comparison to the $3 trillion it was just in 2015, right? So that's about a growth rate of about 15% year over year. And they say that cybercrime represents one of the greatest transfer of economic wealth in history, right? So I think it's very, very prevalent to small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, and they're the ones that are getting frequently targeted. I believe about 43% of cyber attacks are targeted for small business, and only about 14% of them can defend themselves. I guess the most common, if you think about the most common types of attacks, one would think of phishing and social engineering, stolen devices. These are pretty common for these small businesses, and credential theft. And I guess advice really make yourself aware of these things. There's a lot of good thing is there's a lot of literature out there that talks about these things. I am as an IT organization, I have now an RFP out to strengthen my risk assessment ourselves. Being an IT organization, we are pretty tightly measured, but I want another third party also to come in and provide some awareness and risk mitigation. Put security measures and policies in place. Don't make them paper-based only. Please test them regularly and then monitor them as well. I think those would be, for a small to medium-sized business, that would be what I advise.
So if I may to add, Imran, I think, so when we spoke of digital transformation, security is pretty much an integral agenda on that, right? So at John case, we furthered a kind of progress in terms of even looking at zero trust, right? Because today, with what work from home has done to us is that we've kind of been happy building a China wall and saying, hey, everything within the China wall is protected, outside is not, and you have this fancy thing called VPN, right? I think that's history now, right? So today, it's about profiling your information assets as much as you profile the user. And what we've said is we concentrate critical information assets and just build a China wall around that. And rest of it is public domain. So today, John Case is moving pretty much away from these private networks into public networks, which are commoditized, built on internet. Every user is on a public domain. They get authenticated and gain access to information assets which are classified based on a zero trust framework. So why is it also an easy thing for an SMB to adopt? Because today, a lot of the technologies are cloud-based and you could easily go on a subscription. So that's the benefit of also for a greenfield SMB to embrace cloud, because then you can build those infrastructures on an OpEx model and secure your information assets also easily, right? So it's a progressive step that organizations should make, especially you cannot talk about digital transformation without discussing security, right? It's a very integral part of the thing, and especially with privacy getting legislated in Sri Lanka, we are going to have phenomenal challenges in terms of even using data, in terms of whatever we are kind of professing to do in terms of personalization and stuff, right? So the privacy of data, how we use data, how we store and kind of manage those, especially in complying to GDPR and all of those stuff, is going to be a challenge that we have to conquer with.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very relevant question for me also. And we need to understand now hackers even have moved from the end user systems or systems to the left side, which is the developer, right? And so develop easily, if they can hack into your Git repository or maybe a source code, actually they actually tend to put some the back doors to the code, right? And that's where the Gartner predicts the privacy is the 2021 and beyond is one of the critical aspects that we need to look at. What are the available technologies we have? Yes, we do have privacy aware machine learning, right? And so that's again one of the areas that we need to really looking into that. So your DevOps process have to have automation, and then the security have to be part of the integrated. That's what we call now. It's moved from DevOps to now DevSecOps, right? So we have now practicing DevSecOps heavily and making sure all the security parameters and the aspects are being monitored then and there. Then the perimeter security is secondary, right? So perimeter security, actually we can, there are enough technologies to kind of support the perimeter security. And the third one is this, the data, the sensitive data, how we protect those sensitive data. That's where we need to have a super solid systems and the capabilities and the leverage of technology like so we do have anonymization now, the software, right? Anonymization come at a price. Yes, it's actually encryption, decryption, the storage becomes seriously large. When you are talking about machine learning, you are dealing with massive amount of data. Now, all of these data have to have a masking, right? The masking will comes with anonymization. So then you need to think about your anonymization solution. One thing is your latency have to be very low, and by the same time, your cost of storage have to be very low, right? So where do you really store? It's in-house, on-premise, or a cloud. We need to decide some of those strategies, like deciding that strategy, having an enterprise blueprint, having security as a primary component, it's a must. There's no choice, right? And so, but what we see is alarmingly that none of the enterprises have the security as the big component in your enterprise blueprint. Yeah. Now, when you have it, so you are securing your enterprise, the systems. But again, as I told you, your DevSecOps process have to be strong, and the information classification plus the sensitive data, how you deal with the sensitive data. So you have to think about all of this in a holistic manner. And so the machine learning is definitely a leverage here. So you must use, there's no choice, you have to use. And because there are a lot of, if you look at the reverse proxies are there, again, you have phishing sites are there. So easily you can actually capture those, right? So the machine learning is capable of catching some of these things in very advanced manner right now. We are leveraging all of them right now at the moment. So it has to be in your strategy, core strategy. As a CIO in your organization, any enterprise have to have a big strategy that, yes, the privacy and security is the top notch, right? As equal as a functional, non-functional, and business value that it delivers. One single attack can completely bust your entire organization in no time, right? I think you must have heard this the few weeks back, the T-Mobile is attacked. So the 100 million customers information is out in public. Now what? Now T-Mobile will be in serious trouble. They might go bankrupt maybe, right? We don't know. But that's serious. So the entire business can go down in no time. At the same time, if you address that problem right, the digital trust is coming in. So whereas enterprise can leverage that big time, and so becomes your enterprise is trustable. That's where this explainable AI come in, right? So you need to look at the explainable AI as a vehicle. Again, what you do, what the decision that we make, there's a reason behind each of these decision, or maybe recommendation that AI is giving me. Yeah, all in all, yes, there's no choice, but this have to be the primary focus, right? And so there are enough technologies, capabilities, competencies available right now to handle those scenarios.
It's also key part of the solution. And each of these technologies is becoming much more, available even for the SME, because obviously, as Ramesh said, it's on the cloud, and subscriptions are dropping from being, unaffordable to reasonably affordable as well. We're rapidly running out of time, and we discussed a lot of things during this webinar. I thank all of you for that. One of the fun things we do, though, at the end of this webinar series is to ask each of our panelists, very, very quickly, what is your one thing that you think that organizations need to focus on, in terms of succeeding in a post-COVID? I know you have a lot to say, but at least one thing, just one.
So actually, I love this quote from William Platt that says, the arrogance of success is to think that what you did yesterday will be sufficient for tomorrow. So I think the reality is today that whatever that you were doing before has to be, you have to rethink it, if not stop it, right? And I think digital transformation gives you that perfect opportunity to do just that.
For me, I think it's one thing is stay close to the soul of your organization. That makes everything around is possible, relevant, and connected. So when you are close to your soul, you know that you are not letting go any of the things, the great stuff that we do. Because some people think, yeah, I'm a choice that, do I have a choice of digital transformation? You don't, right? Because if you don't, so you actually, that means you are not connected to your soul, because you are not understanding what's the intent that you are existing in your business. And digital transformation is a must, because you take that the intent to a client and become its a reality. So stay close to your soul is one thing I really want to stay with your mind.
So my kind of 2 cents would be kind of always understand your context, especially when you're trying to transform or drive a digital transformation program. Don't try to copy or go by the book and do things, right? Always understand your context, personalize it, write your own playbook, and fail safe, fail fast.
Thank you. Ramesh, Chinthi, Thusera, thank you so much for your time. I can see why you all are considered genuinely inspirational figures in the tech industry. Thank you for your contribution. And just to add a small note to this, we are looking at something on, a series by the FNF Sri Lanka office on the whole new Data Privacy Act, which is very, very important. And stay tuned for that as well. Thank you to all three of you, and please join us in the rest of our series on Restart 2021. Thank you so much and have a great day.